Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Anita Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharajas, and all glories to the assembled devotees. This is Tiffany in Pennsylvania. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Tiffany Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you so much for joining the call. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances to you and everyone.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hey, this is Manisha from Charlotte.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for joining the call. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Anita Mataji, Srila Prabhupada Jai, Guru Maharaj ki Jai.
Hare Krishna, Shyama Gauri Mataji. Thank you so much for joining the call. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Anita Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. My humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devidasi from Rana.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Mataji. Thank you so much for joining the call. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Anita Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Sunita Gandharvika Devidasi from Texas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Mataji. Thank you so much for joining the call. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Anita Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Mataji. Thank you so much for joining the call. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, all glories to assembled devotee. This is Mohini Lakshmi from Detroit.
Hare Krishna, Mohini Mataji. Thank you so much for joining the call. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Varsha from Charlotte.
Hare Krishna, Varsha Mataji. Thank you so much for joining the call. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Is there anyone else would like to introduce yourself? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji, can we start?
Hare Krishna, Anita Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. This is Kamodeki Dasi from Baltimore. Please accept my humble obeisances. All wishes to Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj and all the devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Kamodeki Mataji. Thank you so much for joining the call. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji, we can start. I will start the recording.
Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I welcome you all once again to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. So today we are very fortunate to have with us His Holiness Vedavyasa Priya Swami Maharaj to speak on the glories of Srila Vakreshwara Pandit and Srivasa Pandita. So before going to Maharaj, let me hand over the call to Praveen Govind Prabhuji to give a brief introduction about Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Over to you, Praveen Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. My Dandavat Pranams to all the devotees on the call. His Holiness Vedavyasa Priya Swami Maharaj was born in a Odisha Sahasra Brahman family in 1944. Maharaj was working as a research biochemist in Purvasrama in East Africa and later in the United States. Within a week of his arrival in the United States, Maharaj had association of the disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Circumstances led Maharaj to give up mundane research and take full shelter of the supreme truth. Before his initiation, Maharaj had served the International Society for Krishna Consciousness in various capacities, including personal secretary to the GBC, president of ISKCON Queens, New York, director of Bharatiya Community Services in New Vrindavan. After 1987, Maharaj shifted attention to serving India following the instructions of Srila Prabhupada that every Indian trained in the West must help to serve in India. Since 1991, Maharaj had been based in Vrindavan, India, and his services have included overseeing the functioning of the ashram in Vrindavan and also in Bharatpur, and wider services of regional secretary in Punjab and Haryana, and as chairman of North Indian Temples Divisional Council for 7 years following its inception. Since 1998, Maharaj had been serving Srila Prabhupada and his movement as an initiating spiritual master and has been preaching far and wide throughout the world the message of Guru and Krishna. He is currently free from management duties, making a full commitment and giving spiritual guidance, preaching and teaching to devotees in levels of advancement in Krishna consciousness, philosophy, sadhana, deity worship, and temple seva. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. And I welcome you for the call. Please accept my humble obeisance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So I welcome you all again for the Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. Now we will be moving on to the next session, which is the glories of Srila Vakreshwara Pandit and Srivasa Pandit, which will be given by His Holiness Vedavyasa Priya Swami Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj, for giving your such a wonderful, valuable time and association for us and to enlighten on the topic of glories of Srila Vakreshwara Pandit and Srivasa Pandit. Hare Krishna. Over to you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Maharaj is there in the call, Maharaj. Maybe they want 1 or 2 minutes to come on.
I'll be right with you.
Maharaj is coming.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Hare Krishna.
Glory to Prabhupada. So, can you hear me properly?
Yes,
Very
Maharaj.
well.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jutapad Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavascha श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथानुकान्तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखानुतांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमस्तते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वतदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय. So today we will be describing the glorification of Srivas Pandit. He is the fifth of the Panchatattva, and where Jiva Tattva is also given so much importance in as an expansion of Sri Lord Krishna, which is capable to remain eternally separated as well as eternally united. It is up to the Jiva's desire, and Krishna reciprocates. So, in the Panchatattva, a pure devotee who is coming from the Jiva Tattva becomes an eternal associate of Lord Shri Krishna, and he appears as his eternal character of Narada Muni, and that is the manifestation of Srivas Acharya. So we start from Srivas Acharya. Okay. So in our history, which is not of bygone ages, but with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is hardly 500 years old. But it is based on the Prachin, literatures of in connection to the act of pure devotional service. Vyasadeva is the original author of our Prachin literatures. Prachin are historical. Arvachin means the present day with so-called material education background. Such histories are without any reference to the Vedic authority. So therefore, such philosophies are discounted as baseless and cannot count. So Rupa Goswami's principle is to establish the Prachin history in our Vaishnava literatures. So Prachin things are subject matter of discarding in the modern times. And therefore, most of the youngsters who are obsessed with material education of today's especially technological area, this education becomes so much worthless in front of the inquisitiveness for the knowledge of absolute truth. So Srivas Acharya was personification of devotional service, which was exemplified by Narad Muni and now in the form of Srivas Pandit as the fifth of the Panchatattva incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna. So Srivas Pandit, the fifth member of Panchatattva of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityanand Prabhu, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So he becomes our leader, because if the continuation of the army of extending from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srivas Pandit becomes the stalwart Mahasenapati, under whom Srila Prabhupada is also called Senapati for his followers. So he appeared before the advent of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he appeared along with his five brothers in the house of what's his father's name? Jaladhar. Anyway, his brothers' names were Sri Rama, Sri Nidhi, Sripati. And they were all very fond of singing Krishna's names, worshipping the Lord, and they were taking bath and the Ganges 3 times a day. Now we should know that Srivas Prabhu's house was almost the closest for Jagannath Mishra Prabhu's, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Yoga Pith house. So when you come to Mayapur, before the Yoga Pith, Srivas Angan comes. So this Srivas Angan is the place where he was born. So Srivas Pandit, along with his brothers, they studied Srimad Bhagavatam under Advaita Acharya, and what was the reason for praying to Krishna through the methodology of Advaita Acharya as their teacher? Because they were all fed up with the atheist logicians and proud pandits, and they were harassing the people of Nadia at that time. So they saw ardent need for the Lord to appear in this age of Kali for a special purpose of, eradicating the false doctrine of the so-called erudite scholarships. Shushkamat Tadanam. That's Yadi Kukur Kadana Yadi Chaho. The song for I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes that Yadi Kali Kukur Kali Yadicha. If you desire to eradicate the barking dogs of Kali Yuga, the so-called philosophers and logicians. If you want to get rid of them, Sri Sachinandana Gao. So Shivas Pandit became very much astounding by his exemplary behavior in our Vaishnava philosophy to eradicate the effect of the so-called philosophers. Shivas Pandit has his wife. She is an exalted personality by Gauragona Dipika, and her name was Malini Devi. And she was a constant friend of Sachi Devi, mother of Nimai. And she assumed the service of nursing Nimai. And for that reason, she would frequent the house of Jagannath Mishra. And she had very deep feeling for Nimai. She was Ambika, the nursing mother of Sri Krishna in Krishna Lila. So she was deeply attached with Shivas Pandit. So when Lord Vishwambhara appeared, that is the elder brother of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the hearts of all the devotees filled with parental affection, the Vatsalya Bhav. And Gaurachandra, Lord Malini, and Srivas as the second mother and father. They were his foster father and mother. Their house was located only 200 yards north of Nimai Bari, means the Yoga Pit as of today. Srivas Pandit's fellowship home was there. And large comfortable rooms were there, and highly protective boundary walls are there. And lush densely foliated gardens and groves were there. So every night, Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu and his dearest friends would enjoy ecstatic kirtans here and the taste of the menus of Vrindavan. This was the regular practice of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to have nocturnal kirtan. The kirtan doesn't know the time, whether it is day or night. It should go on continuously. And they were performing boldly and causing counter disturbance to the Pandits who are, surrounding in Mayapur area. So when the Muslim, the Qazi, he made his servants break the sacred mridangas, and Shivas Angan was the place where this incident happened, and it was also known as Kolabanga Danga, place where the mridanga was broken. Qazi passed an ordinance prohibiting Sankirtan, and violators would be converted to Muslim faith and lose their property. This kind of, threats mounted upon the Sankirtan devotees. Although most of the Nadiyavasis, the Navadvip residents, they got panicked over this, but Srivas Pandit laughed at the fanatical law. Within Srivas Angan, Lord Gaurang Sundar showed his divine form to all his eternal associates. The house of Shivas Pandit served as the headquarters of Gauranga Sankirtan movement. Then daily Bhagavatam class, nightly kirtans, and many confidential Vraja pastimes of the Lord Gauranga Rai occurred here. So Srivas Angan is a very, very sacred place for the most important activity of Sankirtan movement that actually born in Srivas Angan. So within Srivas Angan, Lord Gauranga showed his divine form to all his eternal associates. The house of Srivas Pandit served as the headquarters for this Sankirtan movement. Srivas Pandit and Srila Advaita Acharya, the learned chiefs of this Brahmin community, they dedicated all their energy to the Harinam Sankirtan movement. They surrendered their bodies, minds, homes, friends, families, and all possessions to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's service. They knew no other gods or goddesses. Srivas Pandit mentioned, or he is said to maintain his family not because they were his relatives, but because they were all Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's loving servants. He was that much detached. But detachment does not negate attachment to the lotus feet of the Lord. So this is the Vaishnava principle. We are supposed to detach from the material modes of nature so we can fully dedicate our lives to the transcendental mode of the devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Srivas Pandit represents the marginal living entity, that is Tatastha Shakti, that is Jiva himself. Srivas Pandit is also described as Lord Chaitanya's mortal limbs, his face, eyes, hands, disgusted, and other weapons. They all took part in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Then we see the revelations that where the stalwartness of spreading this movement is headed by Srivas Pandit, and therefore he is compared for his role as Narad Muni. Then Narad Muni in his eternal is the eternal associate of Lord Krishna or Vishnu, and he is intergalactical preacher. But Srivas Acharya also Srivas Pandit rather Acharya. He is called Pandit because from the very beginning they were all learned under the tutelage of Advaita Acharya. So Srivas Pandit is the Bhakti Shakti. He is the embodiment of Jiva Tattva, but very in tune with the potency of the preaching. And he left his body and his samadhi is in 64th samadhi area. That is in Vrindavan. Srivas Pandit is Bhakta Swarupa, Bhaktakyam, Bhakta Namami, Bhakta Shakti. So Bhakti Shakti is being exemplified by Srivas Acharya. So we are very, very acquainted with the famous incident of one of the nocturnal pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And on that day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the night was dancing with Srivas Acharya and all of the associates in the Angan, means in the courtyard of Srivas Pandit's house. And the dance was so ecstatic that everyone, was so much absorbed in the love of Godhead. And during this time, Srivas Acharya's son passed away in the house. So the ladies were wailing. And
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji, Maharaj voice is
Om Srivas Acharya, while the dancing was going on, Srivas Acharya became so cautious that Mahaprabhu should not be disturbed in this Sankirtan. And so So, so Srivas Pandit, because he wanted to remain exemplified, and pure devotional service, which is an incessant movement. It cannot be stopped. So he was very acquainted with the principles and norms of this ecstatic dancing of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the highest revelation of pure love of Godhead that ends up in dancing in glorification of the Lord. So when everything was over, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finished the dancing, and they came to know, everybody came to know that in the house, Srivas Pandit's son has passed away. And there was no moroseness on Srivas's face. He just fell at the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he said his son has taken eternal shelter at your lotus feet. So my dear Lord, please bless him. and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Srivas for such serious, application of the mood of detachment. Srivas Pandit has been highly glorified in Bhakti Ratnakar also with Bhakti Ratnakar has been written by Narad Sarkar Thakur, and he was very ardent, follower and appreciating the position of Srivas Pandit, and he prayed, many verses are there. Srivas Pandito धीमान यह पुरु नारदो मुनि पूर्वाक्तख्यो मुनिवरो या आसीन नारद प्रिय स राम पंडित श्रीमां तत् कनिष्ठ सहोदर. Intelligent Srivas Pandit had previously been Narad Muni, the best of the sages. Srivas' younger brother, Sriman Ram Pandit, and had previously been Narad's close friend, Parvat Muni. In Gaur-Gopal Deepika, verse number 19, says, we know the story of Narad Muni and Parvat Muni. So these two brothers, Srivas Pandit is Narad Muni, and his brother Rama Pandit. He is the Parvat Muni. They were the one who visited Chitraketu when his son died, right? And Chitraketu was lamenting. And they warned him before that, yes, you have a son in your life, but he will be the cause of happiness as well as distress. And King Chitraketu said, never mind this stress, I need a son. And so they said, yes, you will get. And soon the son was born, and his happiness beyond the bound, but it created jealousy in kings' wives who cleverly killed the son by poisoning him in the milk, and then it became the complete sorrowful existence for Chitraketu, and nobody could pacify him. So, out of compassion for Narad Muni and Parvat Muni came and then put forward understanding. We know the famous
Hare Krishna, I think Maharaj's connection is a little weak. Maybe he will join back. Let's wait. Chamgauri
Hare
Mataji,
Krishna.
would you like to call Maharaj and say that his connection is with? Oh, he came.
He has joined, Mataji. Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
Hare
Right.
Krishna. Perhaps Maharaj.
Yeah, I have. Yes, I have some weak internet today.
Maharaj, would you like to off your camera so that it will help us to hear your audio clearly?
Okay, all right, that can be done too.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Why it is not putting on? So the Saint Srivas Pandit, is the fifth of the Panchatattva. Lord Krishna is showing his supremacy through his expansion and activity. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a Swayam Rupa incarnation of Krishna, known from Radha Krishna, Nahi and this incarnation has to show the how intimately connected by activity or performance of his leelas, everything based upon Bhakti Shakti. Bhakti Shakti is the fifth limb of the existence of nature, which has to be incorporated. If you take out this fifth and then Krishna becomes incomplete. Krishna is only known through Bhakti-anam abhijanati javana-shashvata-krutaha tato ma-tattvato gyatva vishate tadantaram. Only by undivided devotional service can that not only you will be able to know me in truth, but you will be able to see me in truth, and you will be able to enter into my intricate activities in truth. So without bhakti, and who will be the example of bhakti in our life? So how bhakti is to be rendered, even amongst the most extreme, the worst of all attachment, when it is occurring during the time of ecstatic execution of devotional service, it cannot impede. So Srivas Pandit was the exemplification of such a high or the most exalted anga of Lord Shri Krishna devotee, So, so in this way, we glorify Srivas Pandit. There are so many other short incidences that occurred during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's even life. That prior to that, Srivas Pandit, and he was the Pandit, and he was worshipping through Ganges because Advaita Acharya taught them everything about devotional service. So through that, both became Acharya or the teachers of pure devotional service. And it was prior to even initiation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from Ishwar Puri. And then it was appeared. There is an incident that at that time, early time, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born and Srivas Acharya was also there as his neighbor, and Malini used to go and nurse baby Nimai. So Srivas also had some interaction because of that Panditai. He would worship the Supreme, and the incident that happened in the childhood, then of course Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was known as Nimai Pandit also, because Panditai was the norm of Nadia. Everybody must be a Pandit, and it was the great seat of learning. And we know Nimai Pandit also there. This Srivas Pandit is also there. So many Pandits are there. But ultimate aim of the Pandita is to worship the Supreme Lord. So they were all thinking that Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and he should be the only one to be worshipped, and such teaching was being imposed on Nimai also from early childhood. So there were interaction that Srivas Pandit would say, Nimai, you should worship the Supreme, just follow us. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remembered this. So after taking initiation from Ishwar Puri, when he came, he appeared in the house of Srivas Pandit, and he wanted to surprise Srivas Pandit, because the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu completely changed and resorted, instead of Panditai, he would resort his entire focus on the holy name alone. And he wanted to spread, because that was his realization, and because he's Lord himself, he wanted to inaugurate this movement. So he came to Srivas. Srivas, who are you worshipping? He questioned, and the Lord has appeared. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately showed him his 400 Vishnu form to Srivas, and he got startled. Your worshipable Lord is here. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, startled him so much that he fell at his feet and said, yes, my dear Lord, I was expecting you to appear, but you are appearing for the purpose of our prayers. So therefore, I surrender. And in this way, he was the first one to get convinced of the lordship of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained the purpose, and everything was in line to the age of Kali has already begun, and they knew the Shastra that in Kali Yuga only the holy name is going to be the means of salvation for everyone. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself appeared as Radha Krishna combined. So the purpose was not only salvation, it was beyond the salvation, and it was an unprecedented benediction that he gave to the world. That it was not given before the love of Godhead, you know, and that too in Kali Yuga. So Shivas Pandit Prabhu was the first recipient of love of Godhead. As Narad Muni and the incarnation, Shivas Pandit exhibited all the necessary characteristics that will qualify him to be the personality of pure devotional service, exemplified what we call. So from that day onwards, Shivas Pandit, surrender to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these are exalted characteristics of pure devotional service personified. Shivas Pandit Thakur ki jai. Now we will we will go for the second such great personality who also helped Mahaprabhu in spreading the movement as one of his branches. Let's hear about Vakreshwar Pandit. Vakreshwar Pandit is one of the intimate associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who also, been glorified to such an exalted position of such intimate associates. So most of Vakreshwar Pandit's glorification has been taken from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And at so many places, Vakreshwar Pandit is being named by understanding along with the glories of other associates. Srivas, Haridas, Ramadas, Gadadhar, Murari, Mukunda, Chandrasekhar, and Vakreshwar are all glorious, are all learned scholars, but the sentiment of servitude to Lord Chaitanya makes them mad in ecstasy. The glories for the madman, well, yes, and this transcendental loving service to the Lord, which puts you on the highest ecstasy called madness. And this is such an inseparable ecstatic symptom of pure devotional service. It cannot be separated from the devotional service itself. Actually, such madness is attracting the Supreme Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's expansion as the tree of devotional service is one of the branches. He is called the fifth branch of the tree. And Vakreshwar Pandit was the fifth branch of the tree. First being Nityananda, second being Advaitacharya, like that, Gadadhar Pandit, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like that. So there is the then after Shivas Thakur, and the fifth is Vakreshwar Pandit. So, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would sing the glories of the holy name, Vakreshwar will always dance in front of him. And in such ecstasy, he used to fell at the feet of Lord, and he will always narrate, "Oh my dear Lord, moon-faced one, please give me 10,000 Gandharvas and let them sing as I dance, and then I will be greatly happy. My happiness is to make everybody happy by dancing. So naturally, when everybody becomes happy, my joy increases that manifold. There is an incident in the life of Vakreshwar Pandit, which was very famous as his extolled. He is empowered with the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Devananda Pandit was a very professional reciter of Srimad Bhagavatam. And generally, they are obsessed with the pride and prestige, adoration, distinction. These are all subtle, attachments that are created in the profession of reading Srimad Bhagavatam, reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. They may recite it verbatim, but such, subtle attachments become hindrance in pure devotional service. So Devanand Pandit was a professional reciter, and somehow or other, he had committed a great offense. One time when he was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, Srinivas Acharya came and he was listening to his recitation, but he became so much in the mood of pure love that he showed excess symptom and started chanting the holy name loudly, and this disturbed Devanand Pandit's recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was startled to see such disturbance created by one of the audience. He did not understand, and because of that pride, he was not able to penetrate the heart of the other devotees. So how can he remain attach himself in the heart of the Lord? So Devanand was forced to stop his recitation, but out of that frustration, he yelled at Shivasanga. Who is that? He is disturbing. Why are you becoming so sentimental in disturbing my Bhagavad recitation? And such criticism levied upon such a great personality was misunderstood, and it created great offense. And Srinivas Acharya silently slipped away from the assembly, not taking it. This thing came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very angry at this professional reciter. So he was losing all the recitation because of this particular. Vakreshwar Pandit became merciful one time with the fundamental compassion. So at one of the Sankirtan part in the evening, Vakreshwar Pandit was dancing in that assembly. And this Devanand Pandit happened to got attracted by the sweet chanting and the singing Vakreshwar Pandit dance. So he started serving at by becoming like he will not allow anybody to touch him. So his mode of dancing will be disturbed. So Devanand Pandit unknowingly is doing devotional service by the mercy of Vakreshwar Pandit. He was attracted not by chanting, not by dancing. So the same thing with Srinivas Acharya, that he insulted him, but here he got opportunity to perform service through the pure devotee Vakreshwar Pandit. So after the dancing was, new, he embraced him, and in this way he became recipient of Chaitanya. This is a very extraordinary remembrance of Vakreshwar's dancing. It's not what we call so-called artistic dancing, because such dancing is at par with the mood of loving devotion. People dance by simply body creatures and want to attract to the limbs of the body. But the devotional service and spontaneous dancing is on a different level, and one who is always adept with dancing. He's the first and foremost dancer. And even in Rath Yatra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu starts leading the kirtan and he will be right in front of him to start dancing. A slight, rhythmic chanting would make him dance so intimately that the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will be Krishna. It becomes a very spectacular, uniformity in this dance. So dancing alone cannot, appeal. But seeing the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the dance, is very appropriate. It was so much right from the beginning that this Vakreshwar Pandit was endowed with this method of exhibiting pure devotional service. So, Vakreshwar Pandit is, many times being mentioned in Advaita Acharya's remembrance that he would not forget him to glorify. Taking individual names in gratitude to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is the style that a Vaishnava etiquette it's also demanded that we should glorify the name for a particular service in the movement, which is a contribution to pure devotional service in the movement. So, Vakreshwar Pandit, his exemplary behavior to become representative of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu earned him the acharyaship of one of the branches of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there are other important, remembrances of glories of Vakreshwar Pandit. Most important is that it's only the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that one would understand the devotional interpretation of Srimad Bhagavatam. The mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the line of Gaudiya Vaishnavism that we particularly held how to understand Srimad Bhagavatam is through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's understanding. So, Vakreshwar Pandit was also recipient of that mercy, that how to understand the devotional interpretation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is a devotional treatise. It is not a scholarly, what you call subject matter of these Pandits. Only those who are in line with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can understand the devotional aspect of Srimad Bhagavatam. So similarly, the devotional aspect of Bhagavad Gita was also understood as it is by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by our Srila Prabhupada. And therefore, we are also which is the main subject of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So these are, and Chaitanya Charitamrita is the exemplification of this highest mode executed by the associations in various ways of performance of Sankirtan Chanty. So I would like to stop here. If anybody has any question, please ask.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for such a wonderful, wonderful class. So, giving the glories of Srila Vakreshwara Pandit and Srivas Pandit. So, it was very nice to hear about Srivas Acharya coming as Narada Muni and fifth member of Panchatattva. And before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he appeared and they were having brothers and they were so devoted to Krishna. And his wife, Malini Devi, was serving as a nurse for Nimai Pandit. And how the Sankirtan movement was going on in Srivas Pandit house. And at the same time, unfortunately, his son was not there, which means he was gone. And how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu helped on that. So it was very nice, Maharaj. So about
He
that
revived his
glories.
son.
Sorry, Maharaj.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu
Yeah.
revived his
Yes.
son. Chaitanya
Yes,
revived
Maharaj.
his son.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revived his son, and Srivas Pandit became. Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. And the glories of Vakreshwara Pandit.
It was identical with Narad Muni and Parvat Muni's incident with King Chitraketu's son. So they also revived. But the revival here we see in devotional service is so much ecstatic. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and everybody understood in the way of pure devotional service that the son was eternally associated with Lord Shri Krishna in particular pastimes. Right. So it is quite a parallel understanding, but here it is more of a devotional understanding, and we can understand the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yes, thank you so much, Maharaj, for that explanation once again. Thank you so much. And about the glories of Vakreshwara Pandit, how he is the fifth branch of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and how he was dancing in ecstasy in Sankirtan moment, and he wanted 10,000 Gandharvas to sing and dance for the Sankirtan moment. And how Devanand Pandit was so offensive, like because of he was doing the reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he was offensive to Srivas Pandit, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was angry with him, and how Vakreshwara was so merciful. Vakreshwara Pandit was so merciful, and that's why he was forgiven. So thank you so much, Maharaj, for this glories of Srila Vakreshwara Pandit and Srivasa Pandit. Hare Krishna. Devotees, if any questions, please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you very much for explaining, glorifying the Vakreshwara Pandit and Srivas Thakur. Very nice, thank you. Yes, getting nice. Hare Krishna. મારું માથું દેખાય કઈ મહારાજ જતા રહ્યા લાગ્યા મહારાજ પણ
મને તમે દેખાવ છો.
હવે દેખાયા તમે.
હરે કૃષ્ણ.
બોલો.
હરે કૃષ્ણ. ક્યારે આવવાના છે?
તબિયત કેમ છે? તબિયત કેમ છે અહીંયા?
We will decide after 9th. I have doctor's appointment.
Okay. Well, see you then.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpataru.
Hare Krishna. Devotees, if there is any questions, please go ahead. Otherwise, we shall end the call. Okay. Hare Krishna, Maharaj. So thank you so much for such a wonderful.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandot Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada. and Guru
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for the wonderful class. Very nice to hear about Vakreshwar Pandit and Shivas Acharya for on the auspicious day, disappearance day of Srinivas Pandit. So thank you so much, Prabhuji Maharaj. Thank you so much for your valuable time and association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much for your time and association. So devotees, let us pay our obeisances to Maharaj. Vancha kalpadrupasya kripa sindhube patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrind ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Grace Veda Priya Swami Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Koti Koti Dandat Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Maharaj.
Maharaj.
Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna devotees.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much for joining in. We will close the call here. Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you all devotees. Hare Krishna.